Good afternoon to all, and a warm welcome to Nasscom Insights webinar on its recently released study, Enterprise Experiments with AI Agents, 2025 Global Trends. In our Insights Simplified series of webinars, we try to break down our comprehensive studies into easily understandable key takeaways while soliciting your thoughtful comments and questions. My name is Namita Jain. I'm a director with the Insights team, the research arm of Nasscom. Before we begin and get into the details of the study, I just have a couple of hygiene pointers for all our attendees today. One, we have kept you off audio and video so that we can seamlessly deliver this webinar. The second is that please put all your questions and comments in the chat box. We will open up the session with Q&A from your end towards the end of the presentation. We'll keep about 5 to 10 minutes for that. So let's get started with our session today. Today's study in focus is first part of a two-part study set. This particular study focuses on the concept of agents, their foundational characteristics, what differentiates agentic AI from previous AI technology generations, and how human plus AI agents are different from autonomous agents, and why we, in principle, are kind of batting for human plus AI in the near, mid, and even in the long term. The study then delves deeper into the global adoption trends emerging from a survey of about 100 large and mid-sized organizations. Very interestingly, it kind of corroborates the hypothesis that we are very much in the human plus AI agentic era for a good time. The study is basically, presenting 6 major findings. So what are those? The first thing, and we'll move the slideshow for you, agentic AI is the next evolution. We'll look at the timelines, we'll realize that agents are bringing together all forms of AI on top of other technologies, process orchestration, domain knowledge, to really do what AI was designed to do, which is to revolutionize how operations can be conducted and decisions can be made a lot more efficiently. Just today morning, I read a very interesting line that summarizes AI agents. Agents are where core technology meets emotion and persona. Rightfully, right? But a long way to reach there. Today, we'll discuss the early adoption trends around these agents. Do note that we do not endorse agentic AI is something that is destined or should be designed to take over humans completely. I think we are way far away from being able to say that. What we are trying to present with this particular study is how the concept is evolving and what are enterprises globally thinking about as they shape their strategy towards this. So to start with, what are AI agents? Software designed to sense, assess, act, and learn in order to pursue complex goals with autonomy and predictability. These programs use large language models or multimodal or action or reasoning or design models as their primary knowledge base. We'll now go to the core characteristics of these agents. These agents are able to sense from their environmental context on how to use the data and go about reasoning. The third characteristic around decision making. Fourth, about being able to decide and act on a course of action and execute a certain set of tasks or objectives. And finally, the ability to learn and adapt, and henceforth the cycle continues, right? There are certain protocols for agents to communicate with each other, with the external environment, and also to communicate back to the human users. Next, we try to present in the study a spectrum of how agentic systems might evolve, and we go from human in the loop to fully autonomous, where human only gets to see the outcome and maybe initiate action sometimes, whereas in a fully autonomous, in a human in the loop system, we will probably see a lot more seamless integration between the human users and a variety of agents that are getting orchestrated by superior agents. So we are literally looking at that kind of a collaborative, human plus AI ecosystem of agents. So that's a little bit about how agents are. This particular slide that you have on your screen also shows literally the complexity of what it takes to build AI agents. We took the example of one single, um, uh, you know, activity or task that we typically do. All of us, go to a URL to parse it and look at some data, and then, copy paste some of that data onto our Word and use it in various ways in our analysis. We were just taking a research example, and we tried to break that simple, intuitive going to a URL, parsing it, getting data onto a particular Word doc in terms of how agentic systems will behave, what kind of different agents might be required, and what is the level of interaction that will happen between human and AI agents. Very complex, very nuanced, something that humans do very intuitively. All of that will actually have to be broken down into exact instructions, steps, tasks, activities that then agents will perform. So I think easier said than done, that agentic AI is here and it will transform. It will also probably transform the way we human users have an understanding of our current processes and the activities that we perform. So that's all about the concepts, and it's an interesting read in the study. Now we'll get to the second most important learning, which is all about how enterprises are deploying it. The first most important thing here, AI budgets, because agentic AI is a form of AI, right? AI budgets are becoming crucial. And it's an interesting trend, that we have seen evolve over the last couple of years, ever since generative AI emerged, that organizations are increasingly making AI budgets or dedicated AI budgets a norm rather than an exception. 68% of the enterprises now have dedicated AI budgets and teams. Another 20% have budgets and are building their AI expert teams. You will also notice on the top right chart why that is so. Because companies are spending a lot more on AI. We've seen almost 67% companies are spending over 15%, and this number has gone up significantly when it used to be range bound up to 5% on average just a couple of years ago. All of this clearly means that generative AI has been a revolutionary force. And the bottom chart reveals that. We are seeing a lot of activity by the enterprises around GenAI productivity tools adoption. But where there is a lag, or where there is a gap, is in the model strategy. That brings us to the third most important takeaway from the study, that a Gen AI model strategy is going to be equally crucial and important for companies to have their agentic AI strategy right. Here we see just about 51% of the companies fine-tuning foundation models or LLMs. 40% lesser are using SLMs. But SLMs is a new trend. I think this percentage will go up significantly in the next 6 months. Why? One, we are seeing a lot of model makers turn thematic, niche, focused, verticalized, everything that constitutes a SLM. And we have to remember that SLMs are not just smaller versions of large language models by number of parameters or that they are CPU friendly, but that SLMs actually make a lot more sense when they are focused on something very niche in terms of data or proprietary or something which is very, very difficult to replicate outside an organization. And as more and more process level agents come into the picture, we will see probably that companies will want to do a lot more of these customized SLMs very soon. What that also probably involves is that every company will have a little bit of their own way of doing or building SLMs. Just today morning, we also heard, I'm sure many of you would have read that OpenAI is now doing its consulting services, hinting that a model-only strategy is commodity. It's actually got to be applied in the right context with the right data sets and the right kind of enterprise guardrails. So there's a lot of nuance, but a lot of scope for organizations to work around SLMs and as a result, build very focused agents. That also brings us to our fourth most important takeaway from the study, which is that data strategies are foundational. Why do we say that? We've always said that for AI, you need to have the right kind of data. It's now even more important when it comes to agentic AI, right? So what are companies doing here? Not only are they looking at unstructured data, not only are they looking at streamlining their data governance, but they are also looking at making data very agentic specific. So think of continual data feedback loops for reinforcement learning, something very important for agents to work on. RAG-based real-time data ingestion. These are becoming priorities. But what we think companies will also have to start looking at are aspects around building agent-ready data architecture in itself, investing in very, very high quality task-specific data sets. And that is where a lot of human expertise will come into the play. Also establishing the right kind of data standards for agentic use. So I'm just going to sum up the first four findings for us because that sets the ground. These are all things related to foundational preparation for agents to be adopted. The encouraging signs are that companies are willing to take that next step. They are dedicating budgets. There is significant executive intent, and there is also talent that is being deployed to make this happen. Now let's delve deeper into how enterprises are actually using agents today. We get to our fifth most important takeaway from this particular study, which is that current AI agent adoption is experimental, of course, because this is new. It's a lot more internal focused, functionally limited, but organizations have all the intent to put the budgets, resources, and skills to make it happen. Let's look at what's happening on the actual implementation side. The pie chart that you see on the right-hand side indicates what's going on. 62% of the companies are in various stages of experimenting with agents. 21% of them have identified use cases. 8% have POCs running, 21% POC to production, a significantly higher number scaling up. What that probably also tells us that these are very, very small task-based agents, something that can be easily deployed on structured, standardized data for processes that are also very standardized. And we'll see that later, right? But the fact that more and more companies are here in shorter time indicates that there's a lot of action. Next, there is a lot of dedicated budgets being allocated. Companies are willing to put up to 10%, even up to 20% of AI budgets to agents in this year. However, what we see on the bottom right is where the actual agentic play is. And you'll realize that it's still at a task level, some bit of process level, conversational assistants that we have today that are GenAI enabled, becoming a lot more agentic. But we do not see significant movement on the autonomous despite the hype or the noise around autonomous agents. So companies are still taking a step-by-step approach there. If we go next into what kind of very specific tasks are agents enabling, we can see that it's still process automation, tasks at the physical or industrial AI and human interface, standardized content searches where a lot of reliance is there on GenAI models, etc. We'll now quickly move to understand what is the real strategy or scope of agents being deployed today. Majority of it is internal focused. If we look at internal functional automation or internal standardized task automation, value chain integration, these are all things that are inward looking, where companies are looking at their own processes and trying to figure out the right use cases. A good significant 2 in 3 companies are also trying to figure out agentic solutions for their clients. Let's now look at what internal functions and what kind of clients. IT operations, again, takes the cake, simply because it's a lot more standardized, data driven, everything gets logged. The data is easily available in the format that AI models can easily use. Look at number three, which is customer services, just about 31%. Although, we almost always immediately think that customer services would be the first one. However, when it comes to agentic deployment, there's still a long way to go when companies are willing to and comfortable positioning their agentic offerings directly for customer use. On the sector side, uh, a lot of activity on the services side, but interestingly, manufacturing companies are taking the leap here. So companies where the clients are manufacturing clients, there is a significantly higher demand for AI agent experiments to happen. We'll now probably look into what what are the reasons why companies are thinking about AI agents and what are the current challenges that they are facing. If we look at the left hand side of the chart, which is the perceived benefits, because these are very early days, most companies would not be reporting or would probably not have put in place measures to understand the ROI or the real business benefit from agents. However, the perceived benefits, especially if you look at the top 3 or 4, will reveal to you that companies are looking at enterprise scale benefits. It's not just about freeing up of workforce, which only 39%, by the way, believe. And that also led us to understand that there's a lot of human activity involved in making these agents work within the enterprise realm. But if you think about converting information to intelligence, being able to identify right kind of business opportunities, I think all of those are areas where we expected generative AI also to give these kinds of outcomes, but probably as organizations use generative AI as a base to build agents and then unravel these enterprise benefits, these will probably actually fructify in the next 1 to 2 years. But there are certain challenges, right? Data privacy and security, we've always heard of that. The unknown risks of a self learning AI, maybe this comes to fruition a lot more and in ways that we have not understood till now. Um, if you the prohibitive costs, because so many agents, different kinds of models, maybe even multimodal models, all of those add up to the cost of making agents, scaling agents, sustaining agents within the organization. But look at a few challenges below. The mindset resistance to human AI, limited or unproven ROI. We were a little surprised with those findings. We think that there would be a lot more, cultural mindset and empathetic training that human workforce would require to work with agents. So these are not challenges that should be not addressed or should or organizations should not be cognizant of them. I think these are equally important things to observe and keep in mind. But all in all, a lot more intent, purpose, and budgets and investments that are probably being positioned for agentic AI. Now, what we have to look at next is our final set of takeaways, which is what will it take to make agents real in the next 1 to 2 years? And if we move on to the next slide, we'll see this that there are a lot of risks. As we saw, companies are unwary or rather wary of unknown risks that a self-learning AI may present. How ready are organizations to handle that? What we see on the left-hand side is the kind of risk management measures that companies have. And if you realize, most of them are kind of retrofitting AI-related risk management to existing enterprise risk frameworks, which might not be exactly the way AI risks, one, may present themselves, and two, may actually have to be dealt with. So organizations probably have to figure out where there are new unknown risks due to AI and build risk management frameworks around those potential risk scenarios. As a result of that, uh, there could be very, very varied, timelines to adoption of agentic AI. But what are companies thinking about how soon could it happen? It also depends a little bit on how soon they expect themselves getting disrupted. How soon will their competition actually ramp up? And that's what you see on the right hand side. When we asked companies, by when do you expect your competitors to start disrupting you with agentic AI led process benefits or efficiencies or new business opportunities, almost 53% said within a year. Now that's stark. And that's also like a wake up call for organizations to put all of these actions around data readiness, Gen AI model readiness, having the right kind of risk frameworks, etc., quickly, within this time frame, to then start looking at how meaningfully they can adopt AI agents. All in all, across all of this, what we've realized through this analysis is what we are going to present to you, and that is our final takeaway from this particular study, which is that there's a lot of human play. We are probably not going to see a lot of autonomy and agency given to agents because there's a lot of human intelligence and knowledge base that needs to be fed into these SLMs or very, very customized, reasoning models that agents will need to execute what we expect them to execute at an enterprise scale. So we really bat for a human plus AI way of sustainable, ethical, trustworthy agentic AI evolution. I'll stop here. This is, as I said, the first part of the study. When we launch the next part of the study, we'll be looking at how different business models from the provider end are evolving as they are beginning to offer agentic solutions, and also how some of the end user companies are actually putting these agents into action within their own enterprises.